that your store on Excelsior got robbed. What was the story there?
Oh, God. Well, it wasn't just the store on Excelsior, it was both of them. The
Really?
one that got robbed the most was the one on Park Street.
Really?
That was what has become known as the crash and grab pharmacy burglaries. And it's interesting that, this stuff has all come out now, so the names have been named and everything, and everybody's familiar with what was taking place. We were dealing with renegade cops. And, my place would get broken into by somebody kicking in the front window in the door. Then the cops would come in and investigate, and they'd be in there for half an hour, and then they'd call me. And I lived down on Diamond, so it'd take me a while to get there. So by the time I would get to the store, 45 minutes to an hour had passed. I get in there, and they say there was a burglar in here. And I'd look around, and I'd think, geez, burglars take stuff. There's nothing missing here except a bottle of Percodan or a bottle of Ritalin or something that sells big on the streets. So, it just kept happening. And one time it'd be me, and then it would be Johnny Steitzer. And then Greg Lucine's place, they actually drove a truck smashed into the front of the building in the medicine shop out on the flats. It was always little guys. And it happened so many times that I started, you start getting suspicious because there's nothing missing. Burglars take stuff. And I talked to Johnny Steitzer, and I said, Johnny, there wasn't any burglars in here. There was cops in here. And he says, I know, but he says, who are you going to report it to? You don't know how high this goes up. And I says, I know it. And we were really in the horns of a dilemma, because if we reported it to the wrong person, we're making more trouble for ourselves. And then John Downey's place got hit by a real burglar who went in there, took a suitcase off the shelf, filled it with watches and all of this stuff. And I don't know if they ever caught this guy or not, but he had a very peculiar modus operandi. What he would do is get nervous halfway through the burglary, he or she. And this guy, after getting all this stuff in the suitcase, went into the pharmacy, this nice sparkling white pharmacy at John Downey's, and had diarrhea on the floor. And then took some paper and cleaned up himself, but left the mess there on the floor. John came in, and John was very particular about that pharmacy, keeping it clean and everything. He says they could have stolen that whole damn store, but when he shit on my floor, he says, I want to kill that bugger. And he would have if he ever caught him. But that was during that time too, and then it would come back to me and Johnny Steitzer. Steitzer stationed a Doberman Pinscher in his place, and they shot it in the head. I don't think it killed it, but then Marty Shuey was up at the uptown on Main Street, up above Park and Main, and he saw a guy in there that looked like he was casing the joint one day. So he thought, well, I'll be here to surprise him if he comes in here tonight. So sure enough, that night he's in there working, and he hears something at the back door, and he goes back there and he's listening, and the guy is trying to tear the door open with a crowbar. And he thought, well, why stand here and wait for this guy to destroy the building? So he unlocked the door and kicked it open. The guy fell backwards, and Marty goes out there with a pistol that was that big, right between the legs, shot one, missed him, but that was on purpose. He says that guy left a brown trail all the way up through the alley, and he says he never bothered him again. Marty had a picture of a front of a pistol under his prescription counter. It says, don't worry about the dog, worry about the owner, or something like that.
Yeah.
And he would, he was armed. Jim DeRozier ran the prescription pharmacy down at the Murray Clinic, and he got robbed once by a guy with a shotgun. Now Jim DeRozier was a guy who believes in being armed, and the day that happened, his daughter was working in the store, and she somehow was in between Jim and this guy with a shotgun, or Jim would have gone after him with a pistol, because he always had it on in a holster. He used to scare the salesman half to death. He said, "You ever see one of these?" And he'd pull it out and hold it in the guy's face and scare the guy half to death. So the second time, of course, he was ready for a guy, and he tried to he tried to get off the first shot, and he hit the corner of his fixture, a metal fixture. And the guy says, "Oh, you got a gun, huh?" And he plugs him, and Jim goes down, blam, 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 and there's some bullets flying through the clinic across the hall, which didn't make the doctors very happy. They thought he should get rid of the damn gun after that. I don't know
He
if
got
ever
shot,
did.
though.
He got shot. He would have died if he wasn't in that clinic and had immediate attention. So all of this is going on at the same time. And then I told Greg Lucien, there's one particular guy I want you to watch out for. I says, if you see him around the store, by this time I had figured out this is cops, this isn't somebody else. I says, this guy starts hanging around your store, watch out. About 3 months later, Greg called me up and he says, Dan, you know that guy you warned me about? And I says, yeah. And he says, well, he just held me up. And I said, oh no, Greg, this guy's a burglar, not a robber. He says, they caught him, they got him. And sure enough, it was one of the guys that was always one of the investigators at my burglaries.
One of the cops.
Same guys, every time, same thing happened. There was never anything missing except a bottle of pills.
What was his name, do you remember?
That was Mickey Sullivan. And he's the one eventually wound up getting shot with a shotgun out by Ramsey someplace there.
Yeah.
There was him, and I'm a little reluctant to mention names, him and his brother and a couple of more cops that were there all the time, and one of them that was, when I finally realized I was being had, one of the cops came in there that was always one of the investigating officers. Del LaBreche is another one, he's in prison, and he was always there. Del LaBreche was a friend of mine from high school, and here's the guy who was heisting me all the time. But this big cop come in the store, and I says, I think we got him this time. They left footprints in the new snowfall out in the backyard. He went out and walked in every one of those footprints, obliterating those steps. And I thought, I called Johnny Steitzer. I said, Johnny, I know now what's going on here. We're getting held, we're getting taken to the cleaners by these renegade cops.
When was that?
Well, I moved out of that store in 1974, so that would have been the late 60s and early 70s.
And this was up on Park Street.
Yeah, on Park Street. That was just a little store. It was just 25 by 25. And the front door was glass. You know, and sometimes I'd be in there working at night. I know when I took it over, I wanted to start staying open later hours, which wasn't a good idea up there because our customers weren't used to shopping till 8 o'clock. We didn't have a lot to shop for. And, you know, one night I'd turn the lights off and I'd see somebody coming down from the Parkway bar. And if it was somebody that didn't like me, he'd stop and take a leak on the front door of my building. You know, I'm standing there watching them. Yeah, I won't mention any names there. But, you know, this kept going on, and I was losing sleep, a lot of sleep over it, because every night you go to bed, you worry, is it going to be tonight or is it going to be tonight? I think I got burglarized maybe 6 or 8 times. I don't know how many times Steitzer got hit. I don't know how many times Greg Lucien got hit.
Did that come out of your pocket, or did insurance cover?
Yeah, insurance didn't cover anything like that. One night I was in there, and a young fella came in with a gun. Al Brand used to run Al and Ray's service station. Had told me, when you get held up, watch out if their hand is shaking. He says that's a danger sign. So I was really watching that guy that night, and he's got an Elks boxing sweater on. He's wearing wraparound sunglasses. He's got he's about a day's growth of beard. He's got a tooth that's kind of chipped or something. He's got either the thumb or the finger has been damaged, very obviously. And he takes the money out of the cash register. This was not too long after I took the business over. And he says, now give me your wallet. And I'm thinking, holy Christ, I've got $30 in my wallet. The first time I've had a nickel of my own in my wallet, and he wants my damn wallet. I was about ready to fight him for it, and I didn't care what he took out of the rest of the store. But he didn't take any drugs, just cash. And he says, now, where can I lock you in? And I said, in the bathroom. And the bathroom had another door going into my mom's apartment. So he put me in there, and I went right into her apartment and called the cops. And Jack Gardner's dad was chief of police, night chief of police at the time. He came in and he says, describe the guy to me. Well, hell, I described him completely with the growth of beard and the finger, damaged finger. And I says, he's wearing an Elks boxing sweater. He says, you're kidding. An Elks boxing sweater? He says, how tall was he? And I told him, he says, I know who you, and they went and got him. They had him within 4 hours. And they took him down to the police station, they gave him his rights. While I was standing there listening, he claimed in court that he never did get his rights read to him. And he was, he'd been in a lot of trouble, this guy. He was a twin. And they said, do you want to get behind a one-way mirror and identify him? I said, no, I want to get face-to-face and identify him. And I stood up and I looked at him in the face, and there's a cop standing in between the two of us, because they knew if I got close enough to him, he was going to be damaged before I was through with my feet or whatever it took. And so Neil Lynch, one of my best friends, takes the court case against me, which made me madder than hell. And he said, well, I didn't have any choice. You know, the judge had pointed you to a case and you got to take it. And I said, you know that's crap. You don't want to peddle me that. And so we went to court, and he's questioning me, and he's very careful not to let something slip that actually took place there. And he started to release me, and I says, and that's when he told me he'd get me. And he said, all right, that's all I want. And he was trying to get me off the stand, and Judge Murray says, what was that? And I says, he told me he'd get me. And the judge had me tell what happened then, you know, and geez, Neil was just crushed. Well, wound up, the guy went to prison for, I think, for a burglary or something instead of that. 20 years later,